Welcome to Let's Go Again, a podcast for the independent class where we contemplate the big questions like what's the artist's role in society, and we strategize for the smaller ones like how do I grow an audience when my posts reach about 5 people per day. We'll tackle those ideas and everything in between. I'm your host, Courtney Romano, a writer-director in Providence and your comrade in arms as we navigate this indie artist group project. My hope is that each episode is another chance for us to reset and figure out this path together, outside of the system and on our own terms. So, as they say on set, let's go again. All right, here's the real reason independent artists like us are exhausted all the time. We are limiting the options we have by using way too much logic. If I'm being honest, I look back at any really significant jump I've made in my career, and it's always been from doing something that from the outside just seemed ridiculous, paradoxical, if you will. I have tried so hard to reverse engineer it in my head, and it almost just feels impossible. Like there is no roadmap, no specific blueprint, no best practice. A paradoxical move to me feels slightly undefinable. It's kind of like the other P word. You know what I mean? Like you just know it when you see it. And there's literally no other person in the entire world who is better to talk to about this specific topic than Michelle Pellizzon Lipsitz. She is the founder and head witch in charge at Holisticism, one of my favorite companies of all time. I don't say that about companies, but she has founded this incredible resource for intuitive business people. She also is the host of the 12th House podcast. That is a podcast I will listen to on repeat because there's so much good stuff in there that every episode warrants like 2 to 3 listens. She has also been the founder of Spacies, an incredible notepad for creatives, an actual physical product, and most recently the Sublimatrix, which is a Substack where she breaks down the matrix of destiny, among so many other things. So when I was thinking about talking about paradoxical moves and trying to really understand them and trying to really personally, I want to use them in a more elegant, strategic way. Strategic might be the wrong word, but I guess I mean intentional way. I want to use them intentionally. I want to know what I'm doing. I don't want to just stumble into a paradoxical move and make it. I want to know that I'm making it and embrace that. And so she's the person who introduced me to this topic, and I won't get super far into that because it's in the episode, but she is so smart, and what she has to add to the conversation about art and business and being a human is so refreshing. I just don't think there are a lot of people having conversations like Michelle is having. In this episode, we talk about everything from the spectrum of age and how it changes your understanding of what the creative process is, to the way independent artists can use institutions as a way to make their body of work at a faster rate. We talk about infinite games versus finite games. We talk about how to figure out what you think is cool when you feel indoctrinated by the culture, how to become more unknowable and more unpredictable, and how to use paradoxical moves in your career to find way more opportunities than it appears at first glance. I am so excited to share this episode with you. I don't really want to say too much more about it. I just want you to listen to it, fall in love with Michelle, and have a good time.
When I turned 35, I was like, wait, I thought I was supposed to be dead. I thought that nothing cool was going to happen to me after I turned 35. And I swear to God, it was like I had this realization where I was like, well, I could be a pop star if I wanted to be a pop star still.
Yes.
That didn't just I think I had in my brain probably from dance and being a woman, that once you turn 35, you are kind of well, you're not gonna be able to do anything that you want to do. So there's this deadline. You have to do it by 35. Yeah. And if you don't, then sorry, it sucks to suck.
Tough tits. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I turned 35 and I was like, wait a minute. I'm cooler than I've ever been. I'm hotter than I've ever been. I'm smarter than I've ever been. I'm more humble than I've ever been. And all the things that I I even like maybe had felt off limits to me even at like 30. I was like, I could totally do that now. Like nothing is stopping me from doing that if I really want to do it. It might be, there might be like different challenges, right? Like being a pop star at 35, like, you know, there are barriers to entry on that, but like as many as being a pop star at 20, just different ones. So like if I really wanted to do it, I could just do it, you know? So it was kind of like my brain exploded because I was like, wait a second, everything that I thought I wasn't allowed to do, or like that ship had sailed for me, like that's not, I'm going to, God willing, be living for like at least 50 more years. So like, why don't I just go do the things that I think are interesting, you know?
100%. And I had almost the exact same experience at 35.
Oh,
because 35 is when I started filmmaking.
Whoa, that gives like, me chills.
Yeah. I was like, Elle was 1, and I sat down with Craig and I was like, I'm so scared to say this to you, but like I cannot get my work produced at the rate at which I want to make it. And I have this gnawing suspicion that I need to just do it. And I need to direct. And no one is going to look at a 35-year-old breastfeeding mom and say, direct my film. Like I am not, and this is actually a great segue into what we're talking, paradoxical moves, right? Have a baby, be a filmmaker, what? But I had the same realization of just like, I can do whatever I want. And I was actually listening to, I don't know if you introduced, like basically I'm like either Craig, my husband, introduced me to this, or Michelle, my like mysterious mentor. She doesn't even know she's my mentor, but she's like my hero, has taught me this through something that I've consumed of yours. But do you know the guys over at Meta Label, or the people over at Meta Label, I should say?
Yeah.
On their new Creative Era podcast. Have you listened to that at all?
No, I haven't, but
It's
I really
so
like
good.
what they're up.
It's
I mean,
so good.
I kind of don't understand what they're up to at Meta Label. I support it. Like completely with my like gut in my butt, but I also kind of don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Which I think is about right. But what they're talking about on the podcast I was like listening to this morning was about like the games that you play and having like a finite game versus an infinite game.
Mm-hmm.
And a finite game being like, okay, I'm trying to win. I want to be a dancer, so I want to dance for Trisha Brown, or I want to be on Broadway, or I want to get into Sundance. That's a finite game. But the infinite game being, I want to make things for my entire life. And this is obviously something you talk so much about, like being a prolific creator, and all the ways that you take into that idea of an infinite game. But it really struck me this morning in particular, because I'm like, right, like I was playing a finite game for so long.
Yep.
And now that I've been playing the infinite game, and I think I started playing around 30. Around 30, I was like, I don't know about this. And then at 35, I was like, well, I definitely don't know about this. And so I'm going to go in this other direction, which is just like make as much stuff as I can before I, expire.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if you've thought about that idea of an infinite game. It's so interesting. I'm writing a screenplay right now that is dystopian in nature, but it is about that time, that 35 to 40-year-old time, because obviously it's what I care about right now, where for women specifically who like have to choose whether to like embrace the vital force or give it up. And so, I don't have a question there, but I toss it over to you.
Well, it is interesting, like the age of 35. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I think that Carl Jung said that that's when your spiritual awakening happens, not at 29 during your Saturn return. So I think there's like, and that's where like spiritual people have like I'm totally like butchering his perspective, so please don't burn me at the stake, listeners. But like, I'm pretty sure he said something to the effect of like, at 35, you are at a crossroads where you have your spiritual awakening and you basically begin to develop maturity, or you don't, and you stay, stuck or asleep or whatever it might be. And I thought that was really interesting, because I don't think I was like spiritually asleep, but I do think, to your point, like, the timer had like run out on the finite games, most of the finite games for someone like me, like all the things that I thought probably when I was a young person, I couldn't see myself being older. I could barely see myself making it out of my 20s, not because I was like, I don't know, like so goth or something and like didn't imagine I would live, but just because you can't see that far in advance. I think also like everything that I've gotten that I thought I wanted has not been like as ultimately like satisfying as the like chase towards it, or like once I get it, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. Like even like this getting into UCLA, as soon as I got in, I was like, well, what if they take it away? But you know, I've been realizing in this process, like, oh, I'm so good at worrying about stuff. Like my brain is amazing at like trying to survive and like through anything. And like I cannot enjoy even like 15 seconds of like, wow, I've arrived. I did that thing that I set out to do. And I think in some way that's why I shy away from goals, because I know that I'm kind of always looking for the problem to solve, even when I do something like achieve something, right? And so those achievements don't feel good to me. It's the experience that feels fun and cool and, you know, like expansive as opposed to like the achievement.
I totally. And like as you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, it's not Michelle's brain. It's literally the experience like of it. Like getting a thing is not nearly as dynamic as pursuing a thing.
Yeah.
And the pursuit, I see you having fun with all the time. And it inspires me to have fun. And then and so like we attach the achievement of the thing, our culture attaches the achievement of the thing to the source of happiness, but the source of happiness is the pursuit. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like that's like true ambition from like a soul level is like, let me pursue, let me see, let me peek around this corner and open this door and see what's behind it. You know, it's like our sons are about the same age. It's like, you know, they're digging in dirt and they're like, what's in this dirt? It's so fun.
Yeah. Or in the case of my son, he's unlocking our front door and our gate to the street and looking at me, turning around, and then running as fast as he can out. And he's like, yeah, what's going to happen?
Oh, God.
Are you going to come chase me?
What's going to happen, Mom?
Like,
Yeah.
we're
Oh, my
getting the
gosh.
padlock on the door. Yeah. I mean, I think at this stage, also like, I guess at 35, like the day after I turned 35, we found out that Ethan's cancer was back. And so that, I mean, I can't like uncouple those two things of kind of like being butt up against like mortality and I would be lying if I said like I didn't definitely like I don't wrestle with like my sort of desire to have fun and do cool things that are interesting to me and that take up my time and my attention and that help develop me as a person. I feel often like torn between that because it can feel like a self-centered pursuit, like without any negative connotation. Like it is about me and like wanting to be present for and not miss anything in the life of my family. Like I don't want to be so distracted that I'm not able to like be around for my son and for my husband, and knowing that we all have limited time. We don't know how much time we're going to have together, but at the same time, that almost like I don't know, it helps me prioritize even more, where I'm like, if it's not going to be fun, like a fun experience for me, if it's going to be brutal all the way down until I get to the end of a thing, it's just that's a non-starter. So it has to be fun for me. Usually I can figure out how to make it fun for myself, but yeah, I don't know. That's been another like interesting thing about ambition that I've noticed, because I used to have a higher tolerance for pain coupled with my ambition, where it was like, okay, I can put up with anything. I was a dancer in New York. Like, you know, I can put up with any amount of pain, but like, do the ends justify the means? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze ultimately? Because I know that getting a thing after a painful journey is not that satisfying. So then the journey can't be that painful. Like, it just shouldn't be that painful. You know, it can be hard, but it needs to be like that kind of muscular difficulty that's like, that's pleasurable. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I think I wrote something recently about like running up Harlem Hill. I'm not a runner, but you know, when I was 27 and we were working together, I was attempting to be a runner, and
bless your heart.
It's a hard hill. I enjoyed it because I could feel myself pushing against something, and to feel myself pushing against something felt really good. And this is actually a really good segue into what I wanted to talk to you about, because, okay, I asked you, I said, can you please come on the podcast and can we talk about paradoxical moves? Because you introduced me to this concept, I think, in like 2021, and I was in the middle of pre-production for my series Kinsley Versus, and I was going through, if anyone has ever like been in production before or any kind of launch of anything that they make, it's like spiritual Olympics. You're like, I am facing every dark part of myself every single day. And I listened to you talk about paradoxical moves, and why it intrigued me was because I am perpetually stuck between the good girl syndrome and wanting to do everything right and by the book, and not only doing it by the book, but like going above and beyond the book, like really nailing that book. And the other part of me, which is the rebel part of me, which is like, I actually want to burn everything down. And I hate you all and I hate everything. And also, I don't care. Look at me not caring, right? And for a lot of my youth and in my spiritual immaturity, I would kind of ping pong between both of those choices. I would either do it the right way, or I would like absolutely try to blow something up or want something to blow up so I could go the other way. And I'm in this like spiritual Olympics of pre-production of my first like major large piece of work. And you're talking about paradoxical moves. And I'm someone who likes a Harlem Hill. I like something to work against. But sometimes I have felt when I'm ping-ponging between like good girl and rebel, I am fighting or working against things that feel wrong. I'm like, this isn't the struggle I want to have. I'm not anti-struggle, but I'm to your point earlier, struggle without an ultimate purpose. Like, why am I going after this? And especially in the film industry, it's like this across all industries. I was going to say all creative industries, and then I just said all industries. Like, rules are changing. The way things worked before don't work that way now. So I am constantly looking for like backdoors, not to make it easy, but to make it make sense. I'm like, how can I make this make sense, what I'm doing? And so you talked about paradoxical moves, and it, for me, just kind of like offered me, that secret third thing where I'm like, I don't have to be good and I don't have to be a rebel. I can just, be myself and try something else. And so I'm wondering if you can, I want to like ask you a million questions about it but before I get into that, in case people have not heard about this before, can you give us like a very brief, like how you interpret what are paradoxical moves?
First off, co-sign everything that you said. I want to be perfect and amazing and the best. I want to I love being the best. I love being so obviously the best that it's impossible, that it's like, well, obviously she's the best. Like, look at her. She's obviously incredible. I don't want any shadow of a doubt in someone's mind of how amazing I am. You can talk to my therapist about it. And also I'm very much a hater. Like, I'm a hater sun, hater rising, deep lover moon. I'm kind of like I'm anti very specific things with every fiber of my being, but then like pretty much everything else I love with my whole pussy, So I feel that tension of raging against the machine and also wanting to be accepted by the machine, and loved by the machine. So I get it. And I think that a lot of people who have felt rejected by the machine are forced to be in the place that we are in, right? Which is like, well, I didn't fit perfectly into like the cogs that I needed to fit into to be accepted into this whatever greater thing. So I need to be on the outside, figuring out how I can like kind of concurrently keep up with it or make the thing that I want to make, right? Bad metaphor, but I read this book called U Squared in like 2019 by Price Pritchett, and that introduced to me the concept of paradoxical moves. And this book is like insane.
Yes.
Did you read the book?
Because you did, and so I did. Yes.
Isn't it insane?
Yes. It's what is happening in that book.
He's like a corporate. Okay, listen, everyone. Price Pritchett is a white guy. He's like 80. He is a corporate coach. He coaches like McKinsey.
Whoa. Yeah.
And he is on some spiritual shit. Like, this guy, he's on it. And I love him for it. The book, when I first read it, it's like, what, 40 pages? It's so skinny legend. When I first read it, I was like, explain, this is all so stupid. Like, give me some examples. Like, this guy is just like kind of like preaching or something. He's like giving high-minded ideas without like grounding them down in how to actually do it. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. That's because I actually just have to practice it and do it. He can't tell me how to do it. That's me wanting to be perfect and do it right. So, okay, I need to use my brain and think about what would a paradoxical move be. And so the context of the book, or the thesis of the book is that you can make quantum leaps. So have these like radical overnight shifts or like exponential expansion in areas of your life by not working incrementally and reasonably. And so the sort of like concept or idea is that our usual way of doing things, where we sort of work consistently towards a goal over time, knowing that it's expecting that it's going to take effort and hard work and challenge and time, that perspective actually holds us back from finding solutions that could be alternative pathways to what we want. We're so married to like doing things the conventional way, the way we've been told we have to do them, or like the way that we should expect success to happen to us, that we put on our blinders to seeing that there are other ways of doing things. And like you're a perfect example of this, right? Where you actually took the blinders off and you're like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do it this other way. And look at you. And so his concept of paradoxical moves is basically like, okay, well, you're used to thinking logically, right? This step, then the next step, then the next step will get me this outcome. That is your programming, like a computer program. Great. But what if you ran a different program? What if you did something totally radically differently? And most people cannot even fathom what radically different would be because we're so used to thinking in this logical incremental way, right? So the like introduction of make a completely, this makes no sense, paradoxical move to kind of shake you out of your typical way of doing things. It's basically like a pattern interruption. If we think about like copywriting or writing anything, right? Where we want to get someone's attention, we need to interrupt the pattern. So we're getting our own attention by interrupting the pattern and taking a paradoxical move. And there's lots of ways that you can make paradoxical moves, right? Like breakups are often paradoxical moves. Moving across the country could be a paradoxical move. Doing something out of the ordinary or that's not expected. That might, if you ask someone, how do I achieve this goal? They would say, this way. Then this is the expected way of doing it. The paradoxical move is like, okay, well, what's the opposite of what someone would do perhaps to try and achieve this goal? Why don't we do that? Why don't we try it that way? And it just gets you to think differently, you know?
What's really interesting for me right now is like I'm writing this screenplay and I'm really trying to teach myself a large swath of like different structures because I find everyone is like, this is the way. No, this is the way. And I think it's really interesting when people fight about stuff like this because me being who I am is like, well, what's the underlying principle to all of these things?
Yeah.
And what's interesting in structure is whether you're doing a 3-act or a 5-act or Save the Cat or any of these different things that people come up with is the turn. And what you're talking about is it's breaking the pattern recognition, right? And in screenwriting, I'm thinking all the time about what's the turn? What's the turn? How do I have this person go after this and then have them want something completely different once they pursue it, right? I'm going after the guy and then I get the guy and then I'm like, fuck the guy. Or that's not my screenplay, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I found really challenging, like, okay, so putting this in real time, like, okay, it's 2021 and I have to raise all this money for Kinsley Versus, and I had never raised money before and I had never like directed anything other than a short film before. So it's not like people were like, oh, this brilliant mind in the Sundance Fellowship. It was like, no, it was just random woman in Queens. And I remember thinking like, okay, so am I supposed to spend all my money? Like, is that the paradoxical move? And I kind of got caught. And I think, do I understand it better now? I don't know if I do, but that's why I wanted to talk to you because I want you to fix me. But I guess like I feel the tendency in me and I feel the kind of like, I don't know, cultural patterning in me to be like, okay, like what's the opposite of that? And then like getting to an opposite that I'm like, it's not that it doesn't make any sense. It's that it doesn't feel right. Like, is it that it like, should it not feel right?
Well, I wonder if it's like actually not, maybe it's just not an opposite. Maybe it's almost like these branches, right? So like, okay, straight, imagine a path, right? And so when you're like when you open up Google Maps, right? And you ask Google where you want to go and it gives you the directions. And instead mapping, actually I want to go around, like I'm going to make my journey 3 times longer, but it's going to be more beautiful. That would be a paradoxical move. Like, well, I'm not trying, because the assumption is I'm trying to get where I want to go as quickly as I can. And that could be true. You could get there, that could be faster, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. And like, what happens if we take that paradoxical move? We actually might find, I actually didn't want to go to that destination. what I was looking
Mhm.
for, I thought I was going to that park, but actually what I was looking for was more of a like in situ moment where I'm walking around enjoying my surroundings. And I was able to accomplish that, like just meandering through this neighborhood that I've never been to. So I wonder if it's more like these alternate branches, like with my fingers, right? I know this is a visual medium, but these alternate branches or paths, and as opposed to like the opposite of the path, like going
Mhm.
in the opposite direction. So that's like a question that I wonder about a lot. But I've also in the last couple of years like really kind of gotten obsessed with this in terms of AI.
Mm.
And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like I really got obsessed with this last 2 years of there's so much of my work and my thoughts like available on the internet that can be like mined for a language model, and it really like kept me up at night that potentially like there could be an AI of me where you could ask it, well, what does Michelle think? What does Michelle Pellizzon think of XYZ thing? And it could like probably spit out something pretty close to maybe what I would think. And I was like, what the fuck? Can my like entire consciousness be replicated by an AI or predicted by an AI? That's really scary. I don't want to be predictable.
Mm.
How can I keep changing and growing so that like AI never knows my next move? And in a way, like kind of creating paradoxical moments, even in movements, even for myself. So that's been something I've been thinking about a lot of like, how can I trick AI how can I basically become unknowable
Mm.
or like,
God, that's good. Yeah.
or like just unpredictable, but like unalgorithmic.
Yeah.
So that means that for me, like some things I think about are like, well, then I need to have like experiences because AI
Mhm.
can't steal my like in-person experiences, right? And my deep thought connections, it can't steal or predict my sort of like surprising spiderweb thinking of ways of like connecting ideas that seem like totally separate from each other, or experiences that feel totally separate from each other. And yeah, it means that I have to constantly keep getting new inputs in. Like I need to keep talking to people
Right.
who are interesting to me and like not just do what I think I'm supposed to do next, what makes like sense to do next, but like truly sit with myself and be like, but what would be cool? Like what do I think is cool and why? And what's cool about that to me? Okay, well, how can I do more of that?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's my I'm standing on the shoulders of Price Pritchett here. Like that's my paradoxical move interpretation of like, yeah, I want to zig when other people expect me to zag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it doesn't have when you're saying it like that, it's not the same quality that I'm bringing when I'm like, "I wanna burn it down." Like, it's a different thing. It's like the burning it down model is like an external in your series that you're just writing now about motivations and everything, like, that's an external motivation, but the internal motivation of you being like, "I wanna be unknowable." I mean, you are reflecting on AI, but you're also, when you're thinking about like what move do I want to make? What do I, Michelle, think is cool? I think that is actually a difficult question to ask yourself. Like I think like we've known each other for 10 years.
Over 10 years. Yeah,
Over
we've
10.
had like many lives together. We've seen each other through
Yes.
many lives. Yeah.
Yes. And so I've known you a long time and I've watched you work online for a long time because you've had holisticism and the 12th house and everything for a long time.
Well, we've known each other for like probably 14 years at this point.
Which is crazy because I am 28. So, like,
Crazy.
how did we meet in high school? So weird. But I've seen you kind of, noodle on this question of like, what am I interested in for a long time? And I think that a lot of people who I talk to, it's not that they're not interested in things, it's that like they don't know how to prioritize or maybe like discern what's interesting to them because, like, for a lot of fellow filmmakers, it can sometimes be like, well, I got to do genre film because that's what's selling, or like, I got to do this because this is the only way to get a distributor, or like, and I think in that kind of a context, when like the so heavy in like prescriptive, it is like I have found personally, it is hard to figure out sometimes like what do I think is cool? Like
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a question that I should be asking out loud at 40, but how do you figure out what's cool? Like, what is cool? How do you figure out what's cool to you?
Who knows? I mean, the
Yeah.
way that I'm doing it right now, as of like April 2025, is just like, who am I jealous of? Or like, what do I
Yeah.
think is so cool? I've always kind of been obsessed with plays. I love reading.
Mm.
Plays are my favorite type of reading. I buy stacks and stacks of plays from Shakespeare and Company. It used, I mean, RIP, that used to be on Broadway, right? A million years ago. I would just go in there and like clean everything out and then go. I'm not an actor. I don't like talking in front of people. I don't want to be an actor. I don't want to be a director. They're my favorite thing. They're so smart. They're so incredible. Like, I love them. I love them, obviously. And I always thought it would be so cool to write a play one day. Like, I love plays so much. It would be so cool to write a play. I don't even need it to be out in the world. Or like, I used to say, I wish I could write a play. I love plays so much. I wish I could write a play. I wish I was smart enough to be a screenwriter or a playwright or something like that. That'd be so cool. When people would tell me that's what their job was, I'd be like, oh, I'm so jealous. Or I had a neighbor here in LA who's an agent, and he was telling me how his favorite people, he's an agent for screenwriters, his favorite people to sign are playwrights because they're so smart. And when he was saying that, I was like, I want to be as smart as a playwright. I want like that. Like that was, it was like this like petulant little like jealousy child in me. And I was like, oh yeah, I know this. That's because I want that. I want to do that. I think it's cool. And I think I can do it. There's something in me that thinks like, I got the potential. I could get there. I'm not going to be like Teresa Rebeck. I'm not going to be David Mamet, but like,
you could absolutely be like, no, you'd be like Michelle Pellizzon, which would be as equally, if not more fascinating than Teresa Rebeck. But sorry, continue. Yeah.
But like, I think I got something to say. I could do that. And that seems reasonable. And like people who write plays write lots of plays. So I don't have to just be one and done. So now I'm writing a play with my friend and probably like won't see the light of day, but I guess I'm just like walking through often what I think is cool. I have to kind of like, it's like, it's shaded by these other things, right? It's obscured by these other emotions like jealousy or annoyance or frustration or like wanting to be viewed as a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll give you an example. You're going to die.
Oh, I can't wait.
Don't judge me too much. Okay. So
Never.
So like in the fall, we were hosting a dinner party, me and my husband, and we're having 10
Because you're
people.
so cool. And I want to do it because you do it. Okay, keep going.
And we were going to have 10 people over. Okay. And at the last minute, he's like, oh, I invited this guy and his wife who like he wanted to network with. My husband is an amazing networker. I am not. So that obviously annoys me because I'm like, no, I don't want to talk business stuff. Like, I don't want to schmooze with people, but okay, I love you, whatever, we'll do it. So this is the day before I'm cooking for 10 people. And the woman, the wife says, by the way, I'm allergic to everything. I can't eat anything. I can't eat basically everything that I had on the menu that I'd already bought ingredients for. And so she was like, so we'll see you there. And I was like, I guess I'm going to cook an entirely different dinner for this woman. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. That's not how I would do it. All right. Like, whatever. So they arrive. I'm cooking this woman's special dinner while they arrive. Like everyone has come, is present. And she's kind of being like a little bit standoffish. And so I'm cooking her cabbage, her dairy-free, gluten-free cabbage over the range. I'm like, so tell me, like, what are you up to? I know nothing about this person other than she's a mom and she has a baby that she's breastfeeding, which is why she has to eat these. She can't eat a lot of foods. I'm like, so I don't want to ask like, what's your job? Because what if she is a full-time mom? And I don't want to be redundant. I don't really want to be like, I don't want to put her down by being like, so are you just a mom? Or because that's not how I feel. So I'm like, well, how do you spend your time? Because I don't want to ask her what her job does. She's like, well, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. What do you make documentaries about? She's like, lots of stuff. Okay, what are you working on right now? And she's like, oh, a documentary about a gardener. I'm like, you like plants? Tell me more. I'm like, give me anything, girl. I'm just trying not to burn your cabbage. Like, come on. And she's like, yeah, it's just, they're a really interesting person. I'm not really into plants. I'm like, all right, cool. So like, what is the ultimate goal? Do you want to like, for something like that, do you like want to win an Oscar? Like or is that like too pedestrian? Like, what's the dream? And she's like, yeah, I would never want to win an Oscar. It's just too, and I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, I won like a grant, I won a grant for it. I was like, oh, that's cool. What does that entail? What does that mean? She's like, I just have to make the movie in the next 3 years and they give me some money. And I was like, cool. What's the name of the grant? And she ultimately goes on to tell me that she won a Guggenheim Fellowship. I was like, oh, that's amazing. It's so cool. My dream is to win a MacArthur Genius Grant. And then all of a sudden, the way that she talked to me and looked at me was totally, totally, totally different because I don't know, like projected to her that I knew what she was talking about and that I was a serious enough person for her to, this is how I interpreted it. I could have been totally wrong, but it was like I messaged to her that I spoke her language and that I was smart enough or connected, cultured enough to be worth talking to.
Right.
And it really pissed me off. I don't know about you, but I've been working for myself for so long that often, like, when I introduce myself to people, I just kind of like, I say I like work in marketing or something. I'm like, oh, I have my own business, but like, who doesn't? Who's not a
Yeah.
CEO at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I think people like don't really take me seriously because they don't really know what I do or what I'm about. And
Mm.
I kind of read as like airhead, but like fun airhead, for the most part when I'm talking to people, which is that's how I want to read. I want to read as like
Yeah.
approachable and fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I didn't realize until that moment how much being divorced from institutions where that acted institutions can act as a like an annotation or
Mm.
like an immediate recognition point of like, this is how I can categorize you, how much sort of floating in just an abyss, institutionless, changes the way I interact with people and
Yes.
how much more seriously or not seriously or whatever they might take me. And that really got me thinking like, wow, maybe don't I need to like attach myself to an institution. And immediately after that conversation, I'm getting around to the point, I promise. I was like, I should win a Guggenheim Fellowship. I was just like, I was like so
Yeah.
mad. I was so
Yeah.
mad that she like wasn't taking me seriously. Even like, who cares? Like this,
Yeah.
I don't know this woman. I have not spoken to her since this time, right? Like,
Yeah.
who cares? It's no big deal. But there is something in me, and then I was like, wait, you don't want a Guggenheim Fellowship. You want some sort of like, you want to have a shorthand, and you're not
Yes.
interested in saying in your shorthand being, I run a company that's very successful, and here's what I do. I'm interested in another type of recognition
Mm.
or shorthand. And
Yes.
so then I had to ask myself, well, what would that look like? Like what would that institutional support or alliance be for me that doesn't feel like stupid or cheap or
Yeah.
whatever, blah, 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 blah. So that was how long story short, that's how I got around to like, oh, it would be so cool to get my PhD. And I'd
Yeah.
already been thinking about it for a long time, but it was kind of like the push where I was like, yeah, I see it's not just like this selfish thing where I want to like get a pat on the back and have these letters next to my name. This could help change the way that I operate in the world and get me more quickly to the things that I want to do, which I was going to do anyways. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do them either way. It might help me do it faster if I have this secret code that helps people
Right.
recognize what I'm up to right now.
Yeah.
But if I don't, that's okay. I just have to like reckon with the fact that it will take me a little bit longer. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay too. So that was how I ultimately came around to like, oh yeah, that would be a cool thing to try. So
And an
that's my story.
unknowable what's that?
That's my story.
I love it. I love it. I was right there with you with the cabbage. It smelled great. I you getting a PhD at UCLA is 100% an unknowable move for AI.
Yeah.
I think as you're telling this story though, and of course you're like talking about institution and being institutionless, which I've never said that word before, and that word actually really helps me understand me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because I think that for me, I think a lot about like, well, you either like play the game by their rules or you play the game by your rules and never the twain shall meet. And what I'm hearing you say or how I'm interpreting what you're saying is that like institutions are going to exist whether you use them or not. So if you can use them for a goal that suits you, it's just another tool in your tool belt.
Totally.
And I think that actually in some ways I'm being completely self-centered right now. I'm just like, what does Courtney do next? But like in some ways, I'm like, oh, that's interesting because that would be actually a paradoxical move to how I'm thinking a lot of the time, which is like, I'm climbing my own Harlem Hill all the time. I'm like doing
Mm-hmm.
my own stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a conversation with someone recently who was like, you should be running an organization, but I'm glad you're not. Like, I'm glad you're doing your own thing. And I was like, yeah. Me too. And I am because I ultimately just want freedom, right? But
Yeah.
then, okay, the paradox in that is that within structure and constraint, you can almost feel more free. So, not to say that I don't want to go to grad school, and I'm not saying that I want to like go work at a company, an institution, but this is an interesting thought exercise for me for understanding what a paradoxical move would be, because I think sometimes we think the paradoxical move is a move that's opposite or
Mm-hmm.
tangential or away from like the norm. But
Mhm.
really, what I hear you saying and what I'm understanding, I think for the first time, is it's the opposite or tangential move away from like your, I don't want to say core, but like whatever restrictions or methodologies or patterns, as you were saying before, you have created for yourself. So if
Mhm.
I can go through and be like, this is my pattern, like let's say like I'm a freelancer and I'm like, this is my pattern of working with clients, and I get to a year and then I like have to change. It's like looking at those actual like tactical things could be a way into being like, well, how could I disrupt that pattern?
Mhm.
Not like, how can I disrupt an industry?
Mhm.
Which is often what I'm thinking about. But it's like, how am I going to disrupt an industry if I'm not disrupting myself?
Well,
Am
and
I
sometimes
high? Does that make
exactly, the
sense?
sometimes the paradoxical move is like, but what if this was fun? You know?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
because that unfortunately is for most of us, that is a paradox in our work. That is not an expectation of
Right.
our work of like, well, how could I have fun doing this? Or like, what if this was really easy? What would be the easiest way to do this? That's a paradoxical move for a lot of us. And
Yeah.
so it's not always like, I think that it totally can be oppositional, right? It can be like,
Right.
and so you think I'm going to do this, I'm going to I'm going to do the opposite. That's a paradoxical move. But I just think that there's like more flavors of paradoxical move, that
Yeah.
it
Right.
doesn't have to feel so like almost like and against your intuition, which I think maybe that's what you were speaking to a little bit earlier when you're like, oh, this feels like horrible. Is it supposed to
Yeah.
feel horrible?
Right.
Maybe sometimes, but like also maybe not. Because I think like discomfort often it's like the sand, the grit or something in like an oyster, it creates a pearl.
Right.
You need that like friction for
Right.
something interesting to happen or to like move in a different way, right? But sometimes it also like I don't know, it's not good, and it's kind of on a case by case basis. Yeah, have you read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman?
No, I've
It's
heard of it.
boring. It's really boring, but it's a good book.
Great.
And he talks about like he basically like posits that there are two types of thinking in our brains, like actual
Mm.
developmentally slow thinking number one and thinking number two. And he says that there's this like whole passage chapter that really like has stuck with me in the however long since I've read the book. It's been a long time. But he talks about how we create stereotypes and jump to conclusions. We create heuristics, right? Which is like a shortcut to understanding something. And heuristics are often bad because they mean that we're missing important sort of craggly edges and specifics around an experience or a person or whatever it might be. But they also like developed for a reason. And he uses this example in the book of like, we need to be able to jump to conclusions and categorize things quickly because if we didn't, every time we looked at, let's say, like a sprinkler, we would be like, oh my God, is this thing going to kill me? And we'd have to go
Mm.
through a laundry list of like, well, does it look dangerous? Well, I've never seen it, but I've never seen a sprinkler like this before in this place. It doesn't have teeth, but it could, I guess it could point poison at me. What if it all the things, right? And if we didn't have this type of thinking in our brains where we jump to conclusions, if we're able to categorize people and spaces and things based on, is this dangerous to me? Is this safe? How can I figure this person out? We didn't have those bridges, those shortcuts, then we would be walking through the world with like way too much stimulus and information. We wouldn't be able to do anything. And there's certainly an argument for like, we should not stereotype people. That's bad. Stereotyping is bad. But also, I've been thinking a lot about like, I don't want to cut myself down and make myself small and digestible and niche, obviously, but being aligned with an institution or having an alliance, right? A like organizational alliance acts like that heuristic, right? Where someone can see, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're not a sprinkler that is
Mm-hmm.
going to kill me. Instead of spending all of their time and energy trying to figure out if I'm dangerous or not or whatever, they're like, oh, okay, I kind of see what I'm picking up what you're throwing down. That allows me to like maybe go deeper or like
Yeah.
leapfrog over the hurdle of getting them to trust me or to, like me or to give me even the time of day. And I used to really kind of like hate that on principle. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to have to prove to you. I don't want to have to prove myself to you. Why can't you just trust me? I still feel that, but also I'm like, I don't know, there's a lot of untrustworthy people in the world. Like there's a lot, there's a lot
Right.
that like we should be a little bit suspicious maybe of
Right.
what people are trying to sell us on the internet and people that we can't meet in person. And it's okay that that's a barrier to getting through to people. Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's important. But if that's a barrier to my work, then I need to figure out a way around it Because if I'm spending all of my time and energy trying to convince someone that like they can trust me and that I'm safe and that this work that I'm doing is important or that I know what I'm talking about, then I'm wasting precious time doing the actual work. Do you know what I mean?
Are you saying that are you linking that to like organization and institution, that thought?
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think like just in general, when even like we're talking about unbranding yourself, right? Or like
Right.
becoming niche, not niching yourself down. I think that it's not as simple as just being like, I'm unbranded. I think you have to show, not tell. So like you
Yes.
can create that safety or reliability or whatever by saying like, yeah, I'm interested in lots of things. Here are all the things I'm interested in. You make
Right.
the connections between them. So you kind of have to still do a little bit of presentation of like,
Right.
yeah, like here's a list of the stuff that I'm working on, or like I'm building in public in these areas, and you can
Right.
check it out and come to your own conclusions about the type of person that I am and the type of artist or creative or whatever it might be. I think the alliance, right? Like either with an institution or with a philosophy or
Mhm.
with another creative person, like that or yeah, creative institution,
Yes.
people, it's important to getting things done more quickly,
Yeah.
potentially. It's like a compromise you have to make, right? You can either like work on your own and move perhaps a little bit more slowly because you're simultaneously like working outside of a system and trying to show people that you are worth investing in and that you know what you're
Right.
doing. And
Right.
it's a lot of work and it takes time and it's worthwhile, right? It's not a bad option.
Mhm.
There's another maybe there are lots of other options. And so
Right.
if you want to move a little bit faster, then like the compromise that you have to make is like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to like align with some things that already exist. And that's the struggle is, do the things that already exist, are they so antithetical to my way of working and being that it actually like negates my work, like working within a studio system where it's
Right.
like, well, I don't know, like I don't believe in any of
Right.
this shit.
Right.
And is this going to destroy my creative work and my creative integrity
Right.
versus like, I don't know, maybe working with a smaller organization or,
Right.
you get what I'm saying. I don't want to be
Well,
like beat a dead
no,
horse.
no. No, no. I so get what you're saying. I've been thinking a lot recently. I think I've been thinking a lot recently about context and how we put ourselves in context of things happening around us. And it sounds like what you're saying. And like I've been personally thinking about like how and this is another thing that I've kind of I was thinking about it for myself for a while and couldn't really put it into words. And then Meta Label again came out and was like, this is how you can think about it. I was like, yeah, that, thanks. But they are talking about labels and like treating releases, treating collaborations as a label would. So, and then I just read this article today on Ted Hope's Substack about the movie Ephes. Have you seen this movie that's coming out soon? Or it's come out. It's an independent film and it's about baseball, these middle-aged guys playing baseball at the field that is about to be
Oh,
like raised.
and
And
they're just like talking the whole time, right?
yeah, like probably, and playing baseball. Yeah,
Yeah.
just talking and playing
Yeah. I've heard
baseball.
about this. I want to see it.
It looks so good and
Yeah.
like it hits all of the things that I'm interested in, first of all about baseball because we love baseball in this house, and also storytelling. Like, I'm interested in words and actually, what you're talking about, like playwriting. Like I come from a theater background, so I'm like, yeah, like give me those good words. I want the words. I don't want just the visuals. I love the visuals, but like I want them both to play equally. And the writer director, I believe his name is Carson Lund, Lund. In this article that his Q&A he did on Ted Hope's Hope for Film Substack, said like it's me and a collective of people that we just make each other's films and like we take turns.
That's cool.
And yeah, and to me that sounds like a label, right? Like it's not a studio where we're going to like buy your thing and then we're going to work on distribute. Like when I was looking at Queensbird Films as an entity in like 2020, 2021, I was like, I don't want to do sales. Like I don't want to do sales as a general role. I will do sales day and night for months on a project. I will do whatever a project needs to be done. I will do it. I will make it my Harlem Hill and I will climb up and I will get distribution for the thing if that's what it needs. But is that my entire life is just doing that? No, I cannot do that. I will absolutely dissolve like Alex Mack and be done. This is what I'm thinking about lately. It's like organizational context, whether it's with a studio or with other, artists. And I'm like thinking about making paradoxical moves in that context, because there's a paradox happening that I'm seeing, which is it can't actually be all in or all out. It has to be some of something. There has to be like a touch of something just for people to, like you said, trust you. And that's absolutely their prerogative. And I am looking for like reasons to trust people all the time, because I don't. I'm like, what are you trying to sell me? What?
Or just like, how do I know this is going to be worth my time? Like, I think a lot about like independent artists and like fine artists, or people like who are in like experimental art, right? Or like
Mhm.
whatever. And that actually like inspired, I could talk forever about this. I think it's like why a lot of art is dying, because artists have been told like you need to be pure, your work needs to be pure, and it
Mm.
shouldn't be commercial, and it needs to only be understood by the certain people who are in. And you can just speak to the people who understand it, which like when it comes to modern dance, for example, is probably like 100 people. Like at a certain
Right.
level, you're
Right.
only 100 people can even sit in front of your work and to get it, let alone like speak
Right.
to it, right? And that is not good. I would say that's like
Right.
effectively bad for art.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, kind of lazy and like a little like solipsistic or something, like it's just
Mhm.
not, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing. I need to do more research on it. But anyway, I think about this a lot when it comes to artists who are like the purity of my intention, like intention of my thing. Like I don't want to compromise anything. So they're in super small, they're showing their work for one night only in this weird gallery or that place over there. I'll often, because I'm in LA, get to go see that type of stuff. And half the time I'm like, oh, this actually kind of sucks. Like it's just
Right.
because it's like indie doesn't mean it's good or it's
Right.
like better. Like
Right.
it's just as maybe like feels just as vapid as
Right.
a big budget 30th Marvel movie. Like it's just
Right.
so anyways, I think that I'm just affirming what you're saying, and like
Yeah.
you don't have to compromise, right? Like you don't have to compromise your artistic integrity, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better if
Right.
you aren't compromising, in some.
Right. Potentially, and I don't know how it is in every industry, but like potentially for film, like you want to come up against those like rough edges, like you were talking about earlier. You want to come up against things that like really challenge you in a way to like have to make a decision. Like it gets comfortable. It can get comfortable in either scenario, whether with a studio and you're comfortable because you're just taking notes from an executive and saying yes, and then being like, well, they weren't my notes. So I'm like, blame the
Mhm.
studio. Not that, I mean, everyone blames the director, so that's not even a scenario that's true. But if you do it in your own world, like that's comfortable. And I have often played in my own world because it felt safer. That is
Same.
potentially, like that is potentially a reason to become less deinstitutionalized, is to rub up against people who could be like, actually, Courtney, it's not good, or whatever, or like we don't get it, or like we get it, but that's important information for artists to have, because I believe that art is, the audience, the art itself, and the artist. I think like all three work together,
Mhm.
so yeah, shit.
Yeah, I think there's also, I'm going to speak for myself here. Like, I think I needed until now to kind of like know where I stand. Like, what is
Mm.
integrity to me? Or like, am I willing to hold on really tight to? Be like, actually, I can't compromise on that thing. And what am I like,
Right.
what, that's actually kind of a strong opinion, loosely held. I'm interested in poking holes in my own perception of this thing, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think it needs to be this way, but like, I don't know, let's experiment and see. Maybe it doesn't need to be that way. Maybe it's like not so
Yeah.
important that whatever, that standard that I have
Yeah.
exists. And I don't think I could have like aligned with an institution before now, because I didn't have that. I wasn't like that strong in my conviction.
Right.
Mm, and flexible. I was strong in
Mhm.
my conviction, but it was fragile. And I
Mhm.
know what it felt like. It felt like a house of cards
Mhm.
that I hadn't put like, I hadn't glued everything together yet. It was like
Mhm.
perfectly standing up and it made sense to me.
Mhm.
But I needed
Mhm.
no outside sort of like sway or discourse or judgment, because I was so still like sensitive, right? And like
Right.
could have easily been thrown off the course if I had some outside perception or whatever. And now I feel much more confident in like what's essential to the structural integrity of who I am and what I'm trying to do in the world. I have structural integrity. And so now I can play, and I can also, like I feel confident in myself where if I'm on the wrong path or I feel like, oh, uh-oh, I made a mistake. This is not right.
Yeah.
I can dip. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I have
Right.
options where I'm like, oh, this won't ruin my life to like
Right.
drop out of this program or like to sever ties with XYZ person. Like
Right.
I figured it out before, I'll figure it out again.
Right.
So I think that I don't know, I think that's just unfortunately, like I've been saying this a lot and I don't like it. Like some things just come with age. Like sometimes people trusting you, if you're
Yeah.
like a coach or an advisor, comes with age. If you're
Yep.
22 and trying to life coach people, you can, but like you're going to have some people who are like, I don't know, you're 22. What have you gone through?
Yeah.
And you may
Yeah.
have gone through some stuff, but like you still haven't gone through a lot of stuff, and that's okay.
Right. Right.
So unfortunately, age kind of and experience like seems like it matters. I hate that though, because I used to hate when people would give me that answer.
Right. Right. But it's true. I mean, I also think like, there are two sides to the coin. In youth, we're like, ooh, the Wunderkind, like this is the amazing genius, but there's no experience, right? And then when you get older, no one's going to be like, wow, Courtney, the genius breastfeeding director at
No, I
35.
think that no. I totally disagree. Sorry, not to
Wait,
no
wait, wait.
and you, no but you, but I'm like, I mean, maybe it's just my age. Like 27-year-olds are not that inspiring to me anymore. I'm just like, cool, because you're 27. That's why you can do that.
Right, right.
And like Steven Soderbergh I'm just like in love with him. I've been in love
Yeah.
with him. I just
Yeah.
think he's so cool, and he's not like young.
Oh
He's
no.
and what's impressive to me is like he's just ripping when it
Yeah.
comes to creativity. And he's like, I don't know, let's experiment with this thing. I want to try doing this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
knows himself. So he plays within like, I thought Black Bag was like amazing. Yeah,
I didn't,
sure. It was
yeah.
like extremely, it was like so genre, but it was so good. Like I just
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's my creative crush right now. And
Yeah.
it's not about how young he is. I'm like, oh, he's a genius because he's just like a mad scientist that's trying things
Right.
in the lab and that's just getting up
Right.
and working, right? And isn't too precious about it. And I just like that. I think Sean Baker is kind of similar. Like he's
Uh-huh.
just kind
Uh-huh.
of, chugging away, been
Let's
doing
just try some stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And there is something like inspiring about someone who just like has the stuff at a young age. And then there's something differently inspiring about someone who doesn't really care if they have the stuff or not at an older age and just is
yeah.
like having a good time.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah.
you and we're whatever in our 30s and 40s, right? And I feel like I've seen everyone who was a prodigy at a young age is not making work.
Mm-hmm.
They burned out early or they just like, I
Yeah.
don't know, they lost in. I talked to my friend Katie about this a lot. I'll land the plane on this thought. When you're young and you're the youngest person in the room, all you are is the youngest person in the room. Yes, you're good, but like all that you're able to sort of rest on is your youngness, your youth, right? And as you creep towards getting older, you have to find something else that is your reason for why you're in the room and why it's impressive or exciting that you're in the room. It can't just be that you're young. That's not enough.
Right.
And I think like we could probably keep talking for like 100 hours about this and just like the societal just hyperfixation on youth and why we all want to look younger and act younger and talk younger and blah, 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 blah. But like ultimately, I think when you are young, it's impressive to be to yourself, right? I'm the youngest person here. I'm the youngest person
Yes.
elected. But it's not really that impressive to that many people, to anyone
Right.
other than you, in my opinion, at least from
Right.
rooms that I've been in, what I've seen in the evolution. And so I wish that had been de-emphasized in my life. Like it doesn't really matter that you're the youngest person in the room.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, we both have children to take care of. Okay. So I am going to end us here. I am going to end us here. That's what that sounded like in my head. But Michelle, this is so great. You are so smart. Honestly, okay, listen, I'm not an affiliate to anything with holisticism, but I think that if anyone is listening to this and they were thinking about going into the North Node or any of these things, like I don't even know if you're opening the North Node anymore. I don't even know what's going on.
Well,
Like,
yeah, we will in like June.
okay, great. So like, please, if it's open, it is. I did it for 1 year and I'm planning on doing it again, but like we bought a house and I was like, okay, I need to like focus, Courtney,
You
family, focus.
graduated. You're good. You don't need
No,
note anymore.
That's not true. It is seriously the most valuable. I was thinking about this. I was like, is it one of the most valuable, or is it actually just the most valuable resource on the internet for people who are like even like 10% interested in what we talked about today? Like, I cannot say
Thank
how
you.
valuable it is, and like it keeps getting better, and like the work that you do is so inspiring to me. I'm constantly afraid that I am just repeating your words back in my own words. I'm like
You're not.
terrified that I ever am, because I hope that that's a compliment, because like I think so highly of everything that you make and how you think about the world and how you strive towards things, and like the personal world you're building, the creative and professional world you're building. I just think you are the bee's knees.
Oh, stop
And
it. I'm blushing.
please like tell everyone where they can find you. What's the best way to like stay connected with you, because like they have to.
Yeah, oh, thank you. I mean, it's so mutual. You're my creative crush and creative inspiration. Truly. I remember when you were writing your first book, and I was like, whoa, Courtney's a writer. That's crazy. Like, that's it. Like, wait. And then I was like, wait, maybe I could be a writer. Like, I mean, I write, but like I would never
Oh my
call
gosh.
myself a writer. And then I got hired as a writer, as an editor at a company, and it was like, whoa. And I don't think I ever would have like done it if I hadn't seen you writing and like saying that, calling yourself a writer and posting about it. And so, I guess I can thank you for my entire career.
Okay. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Shut up. Okay. I
But
love you.
yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know if I would have had a kid if you hadn't had Elle, because again,
Well,
you're like, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, whoa, we can do this? Like, I thought I had to
we're
choose.
allowed. Fast forward. Now they're making us. Okay. We want.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can find me at Holisticism. I'm like basically like 7 Substacks in a trench coat at this point, on a lot of like creative projects that I'm working on. Yeah, I'm like, most of my work time is spent at Holisticism, and you can join the North Node, get on the wait list. You can join the Substack, get like access to other stuff in the meantime. And yeah, and I work one-on-one with people as an advisor and consultant. If you want to do one-on-one work, I work month to month with people. And sometimes that means that we work together for like years. And sometimes it means we work together for like 1 month, and it's kind of amazing. Yeah, that's how I'm doing all my things right now.
Yay. Well, we'll post everything and link everything, and big recommendation just to get into Michelle's world, because she is like not hyperbolic, life-changing. She's amazing. Thank you so much. This has been great.
This is the best.
Okay, that's it. We'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. And Michelle, please leave a comment on Substack and tell me what you think. Have you made a paradoxical move before? Is that an interesting concept for you? If you've been institutionless like me and Michelle, would you ever consider using connection with an institution as a tool? Tell me what you thought. I'm dying to know what you think about this episode. And I do have one ask when it comes to sharing this. I would be so appreciative if you texted this episode to a friend, someone who you think might like this. Please send it their way. And thank you for being here, for listening, and for doing all the things that you're doing in the independent world. We need your independent stuff. So keep making it. Until next week, good luck out there.